Here.
Debbie Finnis.
Here.
Lisa Spilman.
Here.
Deborah Williams.
Here.
Town Manager Mataglia.
Here.
County Attorney St.
Here.
Sorry.
Thanks. That brings us to item number 3, approval of the agenda, and the managers informed me that consent agenda C will be removed for tonight's meeting, and we'll come back at a subsequent meeting for more information. Any other changes to tonight's agenda? Trustee Williams.
Yes. Let me get there. We pulled C, so I want to pull D and E for discussion.
Okay. So D and E to follow the consent agenda. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with those changes by Trustee Hanson, seconded by Trustee Skumatz. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. That brings us to item number 4, reports, questions, and issues. Trustee Skumatz?
I think the only element I have to report, I think I reported the consortium of cities meeting last time. So the other, only other thing is that upcoming, sorry, I have a cold and my brain's a little dead. Coffee Buzz this coming Saturday.
Okay, great.
I'm not touching.
Let's see. The only thing I have to report is I had a chance to go to the announcement for the Greenway Trails project between the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, Three Ponds, and potentially up to the Rocky Flats National Wildlife Refuge with Secretary Salazar, Secretary LaHood, and the governor, and I had a chance to tell Secretary LaHood about our thanks for helping us with funding the 36 corridor, and I think that was about it. Trustee Williams.
Can I ask you about that meeting?
Sure, it was actually a public.
Okay, and was it at all about any discussion about our lawsuit or anything like that?
No, it
No?
was just the Department of Transportation has awarded the state $1.5 million for trail building between the wildlife refuges.
But there wasn't any discussion about that.
Not a discussion, just an announcement.
All right, thanks. Just curious.
Trustee Williams?
So I have, this Friday is the first Friday of the month, and I call that First Fridays with Deb. I have that at Juju's Bakery and Cafe at 7:30 to 9:30 in the morning. So that's every first Friday. And this Friday, my topic of the month is current and future recreation programs that we have in the town. Our trails and parks for the town of Superior. So want to just get solicit your opinion on new and existing needs that we have for trails and parks and our recreation programs for the town. And I'll also have the town's recreation survey available so that you can take it on paper instead of online. So if you want to stop by anytime between 7:30 and 9:30 this Friday. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, wait, one other thing, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Sorry. And I also attended a Dr. Cog meeting, which is a Denver Regional Council of Governments meeting. Nothing real big, earth-shattering. There was just one thing that was just a little concerning in that there's something called a 2035 Metro Vision Regional Transportation Plan, and it has to be fiscally constrained, which means constrained being that we have to have the money to pay for all the projects that we're asking to be funded. And one of those projects was RTD's Fast Tracks. And so they had to cut out of the plan, at least out of the Metro Vision plan, the Northwest Rail. That doesn't mean it's out of Fast Tracks. It does mean that it is not funded at this point. And so one of the things that we were all discussing at that meeting is this Northwest Area Mobility Study and how we really want to force the players that are involved in that to really kind of work to support some sort of rail in the area. and come to some kind of compromise, whether it's just a segment of rail or a rail that's closer to where we are. I mean, I realize the rail that was set up before going from downtown Denver, Westminster to Boulder to Longmont was very far-reaching. Maybe we can build it in segments throughout 40 years. No, I'm kidding about the 40 years, or not. I don't know. But anyway, this Northwest Area Mobility Study, hopefully, as everyone in the metro area had discussed, hope we come to some kind of conclusion. And that is it. So now you can continue.
Yeah, I just wanted to publicly thank Assistant Town Manager Beth for her perseverance in trying to get us all to the same place at the same time for the Traffic and Safety Committee meeting, which is going to be on March the 7th at 3 p.m. That's kind of unusual. We typically have them on Mondays, and it's usually at 5 p.m. before our sessions here. But so if anybody's interested, is March 7th a Thursday? Thursday? At 3 p.m., so I know it's kind of middle of the day. And the other thing is I was not going to be here tonight. I'm feeling pretty under the weather, but I'm here because of you. Phyllis, I wouldn't have missed this for anything. So I may not make it much past your presentation, but I'll be here for that. So
Very good. Trustee Pennington.
I wanted to thank town staff, Matt, for getting out an e-blast of the meeting agenda. I thought that was great. I got fully notified. Got about 6 agendas in my inbox, so I'm hoping every resident got it, and certainly invite them to any meeting. I also wanted to recommend that we do an article in the Superior Sentinel newsletter on property tax and the trends in the town portion of the property tax versus the other components of the property tax, because it's little understood out there that the town component has been consistently decreasing, and that the increases are not due to town operations. So I think we need to educate the community on that. I attended NOSAC meeting this week. Sharon, there was the change in chairmanship. Sharon Tedeschi's the new chair, Matt Finnegan the vice chair. Thanks to Margaret Parrish for being the chair and being very active on the committee for more than a decade, I think. And then real interesting presentation, John Nybarger, one of the founders of the whole group, came back and did a presentation on how historically open space has been evaluated for potential recommendation for acquisition, and it was very nice to have that history brought back in. And on the TSC meeting, Traffic and Safety Committee, that Elia mentioned, that key subject's going to be to address the transportation component of the long-term comprehensive plan. So those same community meetings we had, this is going to be continuation of that. So any resident who is interested in that subject is certainly encouraged to attend. That's all.
Just along those lines, so the next step in that process would be the delivery of the information to the Planning Commission, is that correct? And the timeline for that is? Do we have a date for that?
I think it's March 19th.
Okay. Trustee Henson.
Yep. I attended a ProStack meeting last week, and we have finally heard that Founders Park, formerly Town 9 Park, is substantially complete. There's a couple of things that still need to be done, mostly some of the landscaping that will be put in the springtime. And then also town staff is working on putting up some fencing along the southern portion of the basketball courts to keep balls from rolling into the street and so forth. Much of the meeting, we participated in a presentation with Greenplay, just to talk a little bit more about some of the indoor community needs assessment that Deb Williams was talking about. And then really want the community to go to the town website and participate in this survey. If you go to the main website, in the middle section of the website on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that's called Recreation Program Assessment Questionnaire. So go there, give your input on some of the indoor needs that you think we need in town. There's several reminders coming up. The Coyote Volunteer Program is meeting on Wednesday. this Wednesday, the 27th, at 6 p.m. here at Town Hall, if you want to be a part of the volunteer group that's going to work on hazing the coyotes and keeping them at bay. There's an advisory committee open house here at Town Hall on Thursday, March 21st at 6 p.m. And then Arbor Day celebration we do every single year is going to be this year at Founders Park. That'll also be the grand opening for the park. And something we just found out, Gibbons Slackline, there's going to be a slackline component in the park. Gibbons Slackline, probably one of the biggest names in the slackline business, is going to have their professional team out doing demonstrations during the program. So it should be a lot of fun. I attended a Parks and Recreation stakeholders meeting. There's about 20 or so stakeholders from around the town, like Mustangs Football, the Rugby Club, YMCA, various programs that offer, or various organizations that offer programs to residents. Were there just talking about, how we could work better together, communicate more, and the whole purpose was to increase the level of programs that we're offering community members. And then I attended a town hall meeting with Jeannie Nichols and Diana Primavera. That was real good. They had a good discussion on child welfare, and then a real good in-depth discussion about the 4 firearms bills that were being put through the Congress and going to Senate. And I would encourage everybody, regardless of where you stand on those bills, is to reach out to your senators and let them know one way or the other how you'd like them to vote, because they want the input from the community. That's it.
Thanks, Trustee Surley.
Between the 12th and 14th, I took a trip along with the Mayors and Commissioners Coalition for Highway 36 to Washington, D.C. to meet with our representatives and congressional committees to seek to update them on the status of Highway 36 and to seek support for the remaining funding that we're going to need to complete the project on Highway 36. And so there were the mayor and staff from Westminster, Broomfield, Louisville, Superior, Boulder, and also the commissioners from Boulder County and staff, and also Highway 36 Community Solutions had a rep, and there was a business rep from Highway 36, the ones that make silk products. They had a person come along. So in 2 days we had 18 meetings, traipsed about probably 15 miles of tunnels, and met with every one of our congressional delegation or their legislative assistant. Each of our regular our representatives had met with us personally, both senators and or the congressman on Highway 36 all met with us. We met with the House and Senate majority and minority committees involved in transportation, and basically gave them an update on the good news that we got all the lane shifts going, and Phase 1 is going strong, and the funding's in place for that, and Phase 2 bids are soon to be opened, and the selected company there is going to submit a loan application for a TIFIA loan on Phase 2, which is almost assuredly going to be approved. And then we updated them on the NAM study and how we're all in line to cooperate and come to an agreement in the next year on how we want to go forward. And then we went with our hands out saying we need between $50 and $100 million more for the BRT equipment that is considered extremely important to give the Bus Rapid Transit a signature of its own, and have these special buses that are kind of like rails on the road. And we had outstanding support from both parties from every member of the delegation, including those that weren't on Highway 36. They all assured us they'd sign letters that if we needed letters to get support. We met with the people responsible for the TIFIA loan. They consider Highway 36 the Coalition on Highway 36 is their poster child of doing things right, and gave us great support, including encouraging us that TIFIA would be there, be an available source for the equipment that we think we'll need. So, you know, I think the loan issue is, it's a question of cash flow. The RTD is going to have the funds to pay for everything, but not up front, so, because it's based upon tax revenues. And then we talked to each of them, particularly Bennett and Paulus and Perlmutter. They were very enthusiastic in offering potential support and just talking to the railways for us. One of the big issues with Burlington Northern Santa Fe is the high cost of the rail. Sharing the rail with them is from safety requirements because of shared rail. So we started exploring the possibility of convincing them to move their traffic east of the metro area. And, you know, it's a big issue of what's in it for them kind of thing, because they own the rights right now. But most of the traffic that goes through does not stop here. It's not our traffic. And it's, and there are tracks east that Union Pacific, I think, owns, that they could work out something. Anyway, it's something down the road to talk to them about. And everybody, Bennett in particular, has some ins with rail people, and he was tuned in to listening to us anyway, no promises made. But it was, all in all, a really good trip, I think, for the area, and everybody came away feeling like it was well worthwhile. The other thing I did...
Can I just thank you for going? Usually I go on that, and I know it's a lot of work, and like you said...
Thank you for not going. I enjoyed it.
Oh, okay, good. So, but 18 meetings in 2 days is, like you said, it's a lot of work, so
Yeah,
I
I think
appreciate
the
it.
first day we had like 20 minutes to grab a salad for lunch, and what was really outstanding was Representative Paulus was the last meeting on the first day, and he was supposed to meet with us at 5:30, and we were hanging around his office, and he was stuck in a House Rules Committee meeting, dragged on, and finally he called and we agreed to reschedule for the next day, and then we went to dinner. He found out where we went to dinner and came over and joined us for dinner for about half an hour before he had to go to another meeting that night. So
Great.
really, I was impressed by the involvement of our representatives in their care. And the other meeting I went to was the Friday when I got back. Historical Commission had their monthly meeting, and they have some things going on. First of all, at that meeting, they reelected their officers, and everybody that was last year's officers are, again, this year's officers. They have a program coming up in April in which, if I can find the name here, Sylvia Pettum is a journalist who is going to speak. She did a story that led to a break in a case. It was called Who's Jane Doe? It was a woman who was murdered in the 50s that never was identified, and she, through investigative journalism and so forth, was able to identify her, and they actually found a killer. And so she's going to make a presentation in town in April on that story, and they're working on the dates. It's either the 11th, 18th, or 25th, and so we'll hear more about that. And the other thing that they're working on is in June, they would like to host the ANFRAM. It's the Association of Northern Front Range Museums. They would like to host their meeting and do kind of a program at Asti Park, Grasso Park, and so forth. It might be a fairly neat thing to be involved with, and there'll be quite a few people coming to that. So that's, and they probably need some town support for that too. So, very good meeting. Oh, and one other concern they brought up that I admit submitted to them that I wasn't sure how we really plan to deal with this issue, and that is on committee reappointments, when we're dealing with term-limited committee members, but we don't have lined-up replacements. And what are we going to do? Not reappoint people that want to continue, have a hiatus, and then go back to them, maybe with hurt feelings, or are we going to look to have people, if we find out, I'm just a little vague, and I was wondering how we plan to handle that process, because I know there's a couple of committees we've anticipated that might be an issue.
And can I speak on that?
Sure.
So, well, we do have March 21st, a open house that the town is hosting for advisory committees and commissions. And when we do these hostings, and by the way, that's 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., Thursday, March 21st at Town Hall. When we do that, we create kind of a pool of people that are interested in each of the different committees, and we hang on to that list, and so then when there is an opening, we're able to contact them. So, and I know the Historical Commission had quite a few people that were interested, so they're,
Okay.
I'm quite sure, still out there, as well as all the other committees. There's usually multiple people that are interested in, some of the extremely popular ones, like ProStack, that seems to always be filled, and the Planning Commission, and OSAC, and RCAC. So, and I know we've had a little bit of trouble getting RCAC members, but
RCAC's full now, isn't it?
now RCAC is full now, so that's a huge improvement. So I think these committee open houses are important.
Yeah, I agree with
and
that, yeah.
So that addresses, their concern and your concern there. So Thursday, March 21st, if you're interested, to join a committee, or at least talk to all the committee member chairs for all the different committees.
Trustee Bennington?
It is imperative that we really, I think, promote this next one even better than we have been. We have a third vacancy on OSAC right now. Emily Cedarberg had to resign at this meeting I said I attended.
She moved.
Which she's moving, and that leaves 3 vacancies, makes 3 vacancies there. So that's important. 2 things regarding Historical Commission as the old liaison. One, they have 2 current people, members of the community, serving sort of ad hoc on the committee. As we bridge this sort of a little bit of a weirdness in the Historical Commission bylaws versus the resolution. So there are 2 people in the pipeline. But nonetheless, your point that you make is well made, and I think we do need to reflect on that. The advisory committee thing was never intended to be signed, sealed, and delivered and set in stone. It was intended to get a basis going and then to review it and to amend it and handle some of these outlying issues. So if I fully believe they do need to be brought up, so I suggest we sort of contemplate that one and sort of decide how we want to go about that one.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb, too.
Trustee Hansen?
It seemed like at one point when we were going through that whole process that we decided that if there was somebody that was term limited, couldn't come back, they had to wait a year, but if there was no individuals that showed interest in being on there, that those could be actually put back onto the committee right away.
Correct.
That's correct. That's in the ordinance.
But what we did not do, because we had about 1,000,001 other things we had to do in that time frame, we did not specify at what time period those who are interested in returning can return if nobody else applies. So we did not tackle that issue, and I think it needs to be tackled.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of what the discussion was. Yes.
And the last thing, I failed to mention that ProStack also had their elections, and Jim Payne was retained as the chair, and Sandy Hammerly is now the vice chair
Excellent.
of ProStack.
Great.
Andrew, may I just say one other thing?
Please.
kudos to the community. I forgot to mention, I was also at the Jeannie Nicholson Diane Primavera thing, but the most exciting thing about that was typically we get 1, 2, 3 residents. We had 22 residents at this meeting, and gun issues were really important, but so was the Jefferson Parkway. A lot of time spent on those issues.
Town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So, snow removal, crews have been working around the clock, and they've done a great job, along with our 2 main contractors, Vargas, who does mainly the trails and sidewalks, and then Superior Maintenance that does the roads. So, the storm seemed to sneak up on us.
It was poorly timed on Wednesday, I'll give you that.
Yeah, it was. It was right over the weekend, so that was nice. But they have been doing a great job, and the warm weather today helped as well. So we received our end-of-the-year sales tax revenue. It always takes a couple months into the new year before we get our December figures. And we ended up the year with an increase of 3.76% compared to the 2011 revenue, so that was good news there.
How does that compare with our high?
We almost reached a new high that we've ever had in sales tax revenue. We were just a little bit below the $9 million mark, so.
This year.
This year.
Shop more.
So just a reminder, we have the board retreat on March 11th, starting at 5 p.m. prior to the regular meeting, so. News has been out there about Office Max and Office Depot possibly merging, so we'll continue to monitor that to see, because that'll involve, at some point when it goes through some store closings, I'm sure, but we checked the map of where the different stores between the two are located, and it doesn't look like we have anything real close to our area, so hopefully we'll be all right there. That's been mentioned. And
Do you know
then-
if they're going to change the name?
It sounds like Office Depot is going to buy out Office Max, so probably convert to Office Depot is my guess. And then March 19th, the Planning Commission will also review the moving signs issue that the board wanted, along with, I think everybody on the board received an email from Bob McCool, one of our residents and planning commissioners. If not, no? Okay, I'll make sure you get that. But he would like the planning commission to look at temporary banners for businesses. And right now it's 30 days, and he'd like to see that be extended to 90 days. So if you have no objection, I thought since the planning commission was already looking at it, we could just have a look at that one as well.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Matt, the sign thing, you just called it moving signs.
Yeah.
I would broaden it to temporary because we,
we
okay.
can do that as well. Yep.
Okay.
That was it.
Town attorney?
Nothing, thank you.
Town clerk?
Nothing.
All right, thank you. That brings us to item number 5, public comment on consent agenda and non-agenda items.
Hi, my name's Kirk Boba. I've been a resident here since 1993. I was here last September 10th before y'all. 2 of you know me personally on the board here. I raised 2 issues then, one of which was the fence post issue, the maintenance thereof. And from 1993 through 2007, the city of Superior owned and maintained the fence post issue and did so on my property because many times they came out to my property and replaced fence post. With the dissolution of Superior District 2 and 3, for some reason, the city has thrown the ownership of those maintenance items for the post to the homeowners that own open space in their backyard. I know some of you, I know 2 or 3 of you have open space. I'd like to ask, how many of you live with adjacent open space?
It's not open space, but I have fence posts.
It's not open
So
space.
1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 of 7 of you are impacted directly by this concern. The thing that I find amazing here is that replacing a fence that's not even on my land and the fence post, you all say you take care of the fascia. That's great. You've done so since I moved in. I don't understand why the city continues to hold the position since 2007 not to take care of the fences that they have been taking care of for the first 14 years I lived in Superior. I read through, from September through December, I read through all the meeting minutes, that you all make, and I did not see a single mention of my point that I made as far as fence posts goes. I don't know if anyone can comment to that, but I saw no action taken. That's discerning to me. And if 4 of you, as you indicated, have open space, guess what? You own the responsibility, as it stands right now, to replace those fence posts. Guess what? They're all senior aged. Mine are 20 years old, at least 21. I can tell you right now, of the 9 that are on my north side of my property, 1 is gone now, 3 are half to 3/4 rotten. Let me assure you, the next big wind that comes through, they're probably going to come down, which means the majority of that north fence, which is the type of the rail fence, is going to come down, and it's not even on my land. Think about this for a minute. You're asking me to maintain and repair something that isn't on my land. Compare that to you saying to me tonight, my car needs transmission work out in the parking lot right now. You're coming to me to ask you to pay and repair for your transmission work in your car. Same thing for the fence post. I think the city really needs to look at the budget again. I know you have a $50,000 line item for multiple years, in the budget, as I saw this previous time. I think you had the December budget. And I saw line items for, multiple years out, $50,000 per shot. I'd really appreciate it if y'all would look at this again. I think it's wrong to throw the ownership of the maintenance of these posts to the homeowners who own open space. It's just wrong. And on top of that, this fence is 20 years old. And at 2007, most of them were that age anyway. So you're throwing basically a retired fence to the ownership of homeowners like myself, and 4 of you are directly impacted by that. My guess is it's about $500 per fence post to have somebody come out, dig it up, dig the hole, reset, and concrete per post. Think about that for a minute. The other item I did not see comment about was the swim meets in the summer. There are 10 swim meets that the Superior Flyers hold during the summer months. This past summer, since I live really close to the pool and I use it regularly, the North Pool, I don't go to the South Pool. I go to the North Pool. Of the 10 meets you had that were scheduled, that they paid to use, the facilities, 7 of them were held at the North Pool. 7. And of those 7, 3 of them were held on Saturdays, thereby closing the pool for the majority of those 3 Saturdays. I have the dates here if you'd like. If you need those, I'm sure you can look them up. The same thing for Thursday meets. There were 4 of them, which usually close the pool. Of course, we're all at work, so I'm okay with Thursday meets. What I'm not okay with is the fact that out of 10, 7 were held at the North Pool. There are other facilities in Louisville, Broomfield, that this team competes at. Why can't we balance or distribute the swim meets across other facilities instead of monopolizing what is such a limited resource during the summer months for the public that pay for this pool, for the year-round, and we get a 90-day access during the summer. Again, I looked through the meeting minutes for the same item to see, and I brought this up before, if there was any action on it. I again did not see any comment from this forum regarding, my request back in September 10th, which was the last time I was here. Fortunately, this is Monday night. It's a free night for me, and you guys usually have this meeting on Tuesday, which I can't come to, so this is an opportunity for me.
It's always
Our meetings are always Monday night, always.
Unless it's a holiday on a Monday.
Well, I may have your meetings mixed up with a different one, but anyway, tonight was free. I wanted to come back in front of y'all and say, look, you have a big problem with the fence post. You need to address it, and it's not right to throw the responsibility, and 4 of you are directly impacted by this, to throw a retired fence and the maintenance thereof, which isn't even on my land. It's on an easement. Guess what? It's Superior's easement. It's not even my land. I was hoping maybe somebody could comment tonight, since I commented back in September. I saw nothing in comment in the meeting notes. Is anyone willing to come forward and speak now?
I think I can speak. So the flyers they haven't come with their facility use agreement, have they?
No, that doesn't, it's, that agreement doesn't come to the town board.
It has in the past.
It has in the past, but it's under any expense limit that would be needed.
Okay, well, either way, we probably should understand what that is.
I have a related question on that. At one point, they requested additional swim lesson time as well. I was concerned about that, although I never
Yeah.
was, never
That
heard.
request came forward, but never granted.
And at the budget process, we talked about both these issues. And I don't know if they're in minutes on budget sessions, but you mentioned something about how next year their contract is going to change a little bit as far as where or how many of their meets were going to be at the North Pool and how they were going to be spreading that out. I know we discussed that. And we did discuss the allocating money for fence maintenance. And at that time, I think the majority of the board was comfortable with the $50,000, if I'm correct.
I'm not comfortable with the $500 a fence post.
Well, we don't know, we don't have any
So the
information on that.
So the short version is, I guess we should understand what the use agreement looks like, just so everybody is on board with all of that. So, in terms of the fence post,
I don't think it's changed much, if any, from
Okay.
previous years. So.
yeah. So once again,
Okay.
from my perspective, the Flyers provides a service for hundreds of youth, and I understand that your desire to use the pool at that time. So I think this might be one of those areas where we may agree to disagree, but I think it provides a great service, although you should be certain that we're splitting that evenly through the rest of the teams within
And
the
with
league.
North and South Pool.
Yeah,
Is there a reason you
can't-
can't go to South?
I don't think the
Yeah.
South Pool's not set up.
Lot
It's not
size,
built, it's not
named.
built for a swim.
again, I'm all for the Flyers, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just asking that you distribute the meets.
Yep.
A little more balanced. 7 to 3 is not distributed.
Yeah.
That's not an even balance.
So are you saying the South Pole is not, it would not
No.
No.
meet
It's got like
the
3
requirements?
It's not the right size. It doesn't have the
It's
right
a different pool altogether.
It's a kiddie pool.
In terms of the posts, the board did discuss this, and I forget what form that was in. It's probably in the
was in the
budget
budget.
form. And the board at that time elected not to proceed with allocating funds for fence post replacement. So,
But that doesn't seem right. I mean, you're right. I have a pretty big backyard too. At some point, I'm going to be paying $500 for
I think that I have
pretty significant.
answered the
So
question to
stupid,
the
right?
best of my recollection. So, Trustee Pennington, perhaps.
Well, I appreciate your tenacity. Thank you for coming back. Sometimes we don't necessarily resolve an issue, and it's good to be reminded. Sometimes we do it in other forums, like the town board retreats or the budget meetings, et cetera, et cetera. This one, the fence post issue has definitely come up because frankly, I don't understand how a homeowner, how the town can rely on a homeowner to put in the post square enough when you're putting in a row of 10, let's say, so that the town can then attach the face of it. So I think it is something that the town needs to raise again, and we need to figure out if something does need to be done. So that's where I am on it. I'd like to see it raised again and possibly come to a resolution on it.
The best way to deal with this is, the board will be having its retreat and identifying key areas, and this potentially could be identified as a key area
Absolutely.
to address. The problem is it's going to be a gigantic expense for the town. which is going to be way over $50,000, and it's going to be it's not evenly spread throughout the town, so some owners would potentially have a benefit where the rest of the town would not. So
Well,
we'll figure out-
before it comes back to the retreat March 11th, I'd like to actually see some estimate from whoever is their fence post management team to identify.
Budget discussion, we
Yeah,
provided that to
yeah.
the board last year.
But how big a problem do we have with rotting fence posts? I don't know.
I can speak real briefly. Y'all started this place in '91, or thereabouts, plus or
Right.
minus a year, right? So we know what year it is. Most of the fencing, as far as this side of Colton Road goes, is senior age. By the year 25, which isn't very far away, the majority of the fence posts on all of the fence, all the open space fence, is going to need replacing. Now, I have 9 on my north side. I have an L-shaped open space. I have about 12 to 15 on the back side, the west side. So you're asking me to take care of, we'll just call it 20 fence posts. Fortunately, the west fence, again, like I said before, you all replaced those from 93 through 2007. So a majority of those are probably okay for a bit longer, because the precedent for me has been the city of Superior has taken care of them, of the fence that sits on the easement. It's not on my land.
Yeah, I understand, and I think that the appropriate vehicle is what the mayor said.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you all's here. I know I'm pulling it again, but it really needs to be looked at seriously and earnest this time.
Great, thank you very much. Additional public comment on consent agenda or non-agenda items? Seeing none, that brings us to presentations, and I guess I'll preface this by saying that one of the great jobs of being the mayor is that you can recognize organizations and people for the work that they do. We've done it for Boy Scouts, we've done it for football teams, and we've done it for other organizations, and that's a great thing to do. Tonight, we have the special privilege of honoring our own, which is really great. So I think that we're all very appreciative. So with that, unless anybody wants to make any comments.
Well, I just wanted to say that a lot of times, we're the public face, I guess, of the town in a lot of ways, with the town manager and assistant manager and our attorney. But there's so much work that needs to take place behind the scenes. And it may be not the most glamorous work, but the history that Phyllis, that you bring, I mean, to me, in essence, you are the town. 40 years is an unbelievable amount of stability and presence here. And, we can't thank you enough, honestly. I mean, the proclamation, I think it's a very small step towards recognize your contributions to our town.
Yeah. It's obvious you hear at all the town board meetings, and not everybody may know that you've been on the planning commission for, 25 years. So so you're here for 2 meetings a month here, and then 2 planning commission meetings. Having served with you on the planning commission and gotten your support as the chairperson, I really cherish my association with you both from the planning commission and the board. Thank you very much, and I hope you're going to give us 40 more years.
She's been here before any of us have been on the board, and I suspect she'll be here after all of us are gone.
So are you going to read the proclamation?
I am going to, unless anybody else wants to. Yes.
I just
Mr.
wanted to
Megley.
say, I've enjoyed working with Phyllis in the 13 years I've been here, and she's a great resource, living in town her whole life for me to go to and ask her different aspects of the town and the history and those type of things. So it's rare you find somebody who's worked
It's
the
rare.
same
It
work
really is.
for 40 years.
Yep, absolutely.
True dedication.
All right, with that, I'd like to read a proclamation of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior in appreciation of the service of Phyllis Harden. Whereas Phyllis has been an employee with the town for 40 years and has been a resident of the town for her entire life, and is an active and thoughtful participant in the community, and has served on the Planning Commission for over 25 years, and has been a certified municipal clerk since 2005, and has provided exceptional service and knowledge to the town, and has continued to serve the town in dedication and a loyal manner. Now therefore, the Board of Trustees hereby proclaims its sincerest appreciation to Phyllis Harden for her significant contribution to the community and for her dedicated service to the town of Superior. Hear, hear.
Phyllis, I think we've got some family here. I see some resemblances.
That is my guess.
Would you introduce your family?
Yes, and I would like to give you a plaque as well, and perhaps
A picture?
some pictures with your family. How's that sound? Okay, giving you a hug, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, we
One more hug.
Gotta get the town
Well, you got to get under here, right here.
right here.
Yep. Under the town of Superior, right here. This is...
Right by the station. First spot.
Hey,
Yeah. we should do
Yeah.
Beth, can you get a maybe?
Yeah.
Do you guys all want to get up?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Let's get close. Let's go close.
Yes. All right. Okay, Chris, you have to come down. There's family. You have to introduce and maybe take a picture with family.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you want some help?
Say negative. There we go. Come on up.
I didn't turn it up. But it did. Everybody's sweating. So who have we here, Phyllis?
Okay, this is my daughter Terry, my daughter Christy, my son Sean, my grandson Gregory, my grandson Andrew, and my great-granddaughter Kate Davia.
Do you want to have him come over here, Beth, so the podium's not in the way? Over here, Phyllis, so that we don't have that podium. This is for posterity.
Flash them, flash.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your mom and your grandma with us.
And great-grandma. We like rice.
Yes. Okay. Would it,
Thank you very much.
very much.
Thank you all so very much.
It's our pleasure. It's not enough to honor you with this, but it's the least we could possibly do.
I will say that for staff, they did get me my own parking space in the back, so.
Do you have a sign?
I do have,
Well done.
that is great.
All right. Would the attorney have a problem with this, or would the board have a problem if we could just maybe swap so that the Fire Protection District could do their presentation now and come back? I mean, I know you've been here for a long time, and I want to value your time, so. Yeah, so why don't we do that? So that would bring us to presentation of Rocky Mountain Fire Protection District. And Mr. Magley?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Mike Tombolato with Rocky Mountain Fire District is here tonight. He's put together a presentation for the board, overviewing the district services and calls and just the services that they provide, not only for the district, but for the town of Superior, and some of the things that they saw, I think, with last year's fire season.
Great, thanks. And I didn't have, I forgot to mention that we had a meeting before this meeting with the Fire Protection District, and I think that everybody felt it was very valuable, and we appreciate your time for coming down here, so thank you.
You want to advance that?
Yeah, I think the arrow keys.
Okay, I got it.
You need a...
Beautiful, yeah.
Yellow?
Yeah.
Never know.
I like doing the cat. Good evening. My name is Mike Tombolato, Chief of Rocky Mountain Fire. I just want to take a moment to say that it was wonderful to recognize Phyllis. I've been here 25 years, and she's been not only a constant, but a pleasant constant in my life working with the town. So, you're here. I'm going to give an overview of the district. For those of you who don't know how we came about as Rocky Mountain Fire, just kind of start out with some district statistics here. The district is more than the town of Superior. In fact, we're 55 square miles. The population we serve is about 34,000, according to the county. We started out many years ago, in the 50s, as a civil defense district. And it was actually District Number 2, located, basically kind of formed along Sherryville Road from the communities there. The majority of the members were the women of the community. In the 60s, because fire protection was needed and they didn't have any services, they formed the Sherryville Fire Protection District. In 1977, the state legislature decided that there were some other holes in the communities around that needed services, so they gave us Flagstaff Mountain to Sherryville District to provide services to it. Later on, in the 80s, the town of Superior's Fire District, we consolidated with them. And then in 2006, we consolidated with El Dorado Springs and Marshall Fire District, and that's kind of where we're at today. We respond to about 800 to 900 calls annually. Currently, we have 37 full-time employees, 7 seasonals, and 5 reserve firefighters. And that reserve is the terminology we use for volunteers. The difference is that in days past, volunteers came in and gave their time freely and expected nothing in return, and these guys still do the same, but we give them a stipend for the gas and the food that they, when they're on shift. So they actually do shifts, just like the paid personnel. So they actually schedule, and they come in and do 12 or 24 hours worth of shift time. So they're at the station. So that's kind of the difference between volunteers and reserves. We run 3 shifts. Those shifts all work 48 hours on, and then they're off 96. So it's basically 2 days on, 4 days off. Our current mill rate is 15.325. There was something that I did forget that was brought up earlier that I should have put on here, and that's the ISO rating. That's the rating in which the insurance companies determine our ability to provide services to the community. The ISO for the town of Superior is 4. The communities we serve, of course, the town of Superior, El Dorado Springs, Marshall, the El Dorado State Park, Flagstaff Mountain, which includes the Walker Ranch open space, a number of these subdivisions, which mostly I'll say are north of South Boulder Road, all the way up to Lookout. We provide services to NREL, which is the National Renewable Lab, and you guys all seen the big windmills up there. I also provide service to Rocky Flats, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We have a contract with them to provide services to their lands. One of the unique features of our district, being that it's 55 square miles, is that we provide a lot of services to open space. In fact, this is kind of the unique stat, is that 76% of all city-owned open space falls within the district boundaries of Rocky Mountain Fire. It's a substantial amount of property that we provide services to. And as you can imagine, the majority of what goes on there is wildland fire activities. This is kind of orient you real quick. US 36, Town of Superior. Louisville, City of Boulder. This is El Dorado Springs Canyon area. This is the Flagstaff area. And everything that's in green is the district of Rocky Mountain Fire. Also highlighted in here are our Fire Station 1 at 7700 baseline. We have a Station 2, which is a small original station where the Civil Defense group started on Cherryville and Baseline Road. Station 3 is in the original town of Superior. Station 5 is at Indiana Colton. Station 6 is about a mile off of 93 on El Dorado Springs Road. And Station 4, for all of those you have wandered up Flagstaff Mountain, is right across from Costler Lake. It's about 5.5 miles up the mountain from Chautauqua Park. So that's kind of our distribution of facilities in the area that we serve. You can see it's fairly diverse. Talked about it earlier. We have the high residential densities and the commercial that comes along that we have here in the town of Superior. The vast tracts of open space to the west of the town of Superior. Up here we have a lot of what we call dispersed residential with a little bit of commercial along Arapahoe and South Boulder. And then large tracts of what we call the wildland urban interface, where we have residential mixed into the wildlands. Just added the org chart. I guess the only thing here I wanted you to see is that we have 3 divisions. We have the administrative division. We have the planning division, which houses the training officer, and then our prevention division, which is the fire marshal, and our pub ed, and then everything else is operations. This is our current 2013 budget. We basically broke it out through the administrative services, which would be, myself and the administrative staff, the fire marshal, pub ed. Those activities are in the administrative number. Operations are all the paid fire guys and all the stuff that's associated with them, the training and aspects. This is our wildland program. We do have a standalone wildland program. The 7 seasonal employees with some additional paid employees run that wildland division. I'll talk more about that as we go on. And then our capital expenditures for 2013. That's basically apparatus replacement dollars for about a $5 million budget for 2013. Give you a quick breakdown on how that works. Someone had mentioned that 84% goes to salaries, and the bottom line to that is that the fire stations and fire equipment that we own don't put out fires. They don't put Band-Aids on. It's the firefighters that do that stuff. That's why most of our money goes into the firefighters. They're the ones that provide all the services. And the rest of it are just general expenses, facilities, vehicles, supplies and equipment, repairs, maintenance, training, activities. So the vast majority of our budget does go to paid firefighters. Any questions so far?
Oh, well, I'll wait until you're done.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That was going to be my question, actually, at the end, what contact, but so you have the answer
Yeah,
right there.
there you go. So this is district-wide, okay, and this was for last year, the types of calls that we run on. I'll just kind of go through them real quick. The obvious ones, wildland fires, vehicle fires, and structure fires, I think most people understand what those are. Search and rescues do happen. We do go on, not a lot, but there are real significant calls when we do them. Hazard leaks, so any type of hazmat that goes on, pretty much everything that leaks out of something nowadays becomes a hazmat, so it's a critical issue. Fire other could be a dumpster fire, could be something like that, so it's not a structure fire, and it's not a wildland fire, it's somewhere in between. False calls, fire alarms, someone calling us that they saw everybody's got a cell phone, so we get a lot of false calls. They see a car smoking on the side of 36. It's an overheat situation, but they call it in that the car's on fire. So those are the false calls. EMS, which is our largest percentage of calls that we go on. Historically, that's been the case for that. MVA is multiple vehicle accidents, which is a significant amount of the calls. Again, we do have some significant travel routes through our district, not only Highway 36, but 128, 93, South Boulder Road. Those are significant travel routes, as you're probably well aware of if you travel around here during rush hour. And assist calls, which is a pretty significant percentage of calls, and that is smoke detectors going off, and we can't stop it. We'll go at any time of the day or night to fix that. Flooded basements. My dad can't get up. Could you help him get up? So those are those types of calls. And then everything else that doesn't fit in one of those nice little categories. So that, in a year, is basically what we do and how they are percentaged out. Okay? This graph kind of shows where we provide those services. And again, this is from last year. South, the way we break up the district is 36, and south is those calls that are happening here. North is everything from 36 north up to our northern boundary. And then we have Flagstaff and Eldorado Springs. And then the mutual aid calls, that's when we provide to somebody else. So if Louisville, Lafayette, North Metro, City of Boulder calls and asks for us to provide them with something during one of their calls, that's what that 10% is.
Is the town of Superior in the south?
The town of Superior is in here.
Okay, thank you.
So I broke it down a little bit more. You can kind of see what you're talking about. Again, this is total calls for 2012. Here's the town of Superior at 336, North District at 233. And you can see all the rest of it. Here's Rocky Flats. Here's what happens out on the highway. Here's our mutual aid calls, anything with an MA to the different municipalities. We're providing services to them. Highway 93, El Dorado Springs community. And response times to the various areas, north, south, Flagstaff, and El Dorado Springs. And the only thing I kind of show you here is that, we have it broke down emergent and non. Sometimes we're asked to respond to things non-emergent. Sometimes medical calls come in and they don't want the noise and the excitement to add to whatever situation's going on with the patient, so we were asked to come in non-emergent. Sometimes the gas leaks, if no one's feeling ill, we'll respond to those non-emergent. So that kind of breaks it out from emergent to non-emergent. And the town of Superior is here. That it does include 128, some of 93, and some stuff out on to 36. This is our ambulance and ALS part of our service. Advanced life support, which is your paramedic care. We have a dedicated ambulance located at Station 5 here in the town of Superior. We have a second ambulance, which is dedicated to the north and western parts of the district. Station 1's engine is staffed also with a paramedic, with all the tools that go along with a paramedic, with the 12-lead pacing machine, along with the cardiac drugs, and so without getting too much into depth on that, but we do have a paramedic engine that runs out of our north station. Our physician advisor is Dr. Wu out of Vista Hospital. He provides the license in which our paramedics and EMTs operate. We do have a partnership with AMR, and that partnership goes where Rocky Mountain provides the employees, the facility, and the training, and AMR provides the equipment, maintenance, supplies, and billing. and that's how we divvy it up. And it's about a 50-50 split on the service costs. All of our firefighters on the fire district are EMTs, national certified EMTs. We have 8 additional paramedics. Wildfire. As I said, we have a separate wildfire crew. The crew, we have 2 permanent people on that crew that carry out the activities to manage that throughout the year. We have then 7 additional seasonal people. They come on at various times. Some of them are 10-month employees, some of them are 8, some are 6. We try to focus the majority of that time and effort during the primary wildfire seasons. What they provide generally to the district is basically a presence, and they'll patrol wherever we feel is appropriate for them to go. We also provide a fuel mitigation, so if homeowners want mitigation around their home, we provide that with the crew. The crew actually go design a mitigation plan for that homeowner. Once the homeowner approves it, we implement it with the crew. And it includes everything, cutting of the material, chipping, hauling, or burning that material when it's appropriate. That crew has a backlog currently of 3 years of work to do. It is available at no additional cost to anybody within the district. So, all of our firefighters, all 37 of them, are what we call National Wildfire Coordination Group qualified, certified wildland firefighters. Every person on the fire district, again, is trained to that level. So because we have such a predominance of that activity within our district. Like I said, the crew provides fuel mitigation. You guys know that we participate with the Boulder County Incident Management Team. The Chili Fest for years has been dedicating those monies to fund that team, be able to provide those services within the county. And I think I can take a couple of moments here, because we also participate on the national scene too. And the way things work is, if an incident occurs in any of the fire districts, it belongs to that fire district. They're in charge until it exceeds their capabilities. If it's going to exceed, or if there's an anticipation to it exceed, it goes up to the sheriff and says, hey, we've exceeded our capabilities of managing this incident. This could be any kind of incident, not just wildfires. Plane crashes, floods, large snowstorms, whatever it happens to be. When the sheriff gets that, they sign an agreement with that fire district saying, we will take on the responsibility for that, for your incident. They call the incident management team at that time, the sheriff does. And then it's a group of folks with specialties at various positions that come together and provide that service to the sheriff's department. There's about 15 of our firefighters that are on that team in various different positions. There are 5 total ICs, incident commanders, on that team. 3 of them work for Rocky Mountain Fire. So we're well represented on that team. At the national level, as you guys all heard, like most recently the Flagstaff fire last summer, it exceeded, and it wasn't in our district, by the way, but it exceeded the city of Boulder, because it was on city of Boulder open space, his ability to manage it. So they called the sheriff and asked for the incident management team to come and take it over. So we responded and took it over from them. We recognized it was going to exceed our capabilities, so we went up to the national level. And at the national level, there are 2 levels, level 2 and level 1, which is the highest level. So level 1 would be like 9/11, okay? Level 1 would be like Waldo Canyon Fire. The other level 1 team that was here did the Hyde Park Fire last year. And by the way, the Flagstaff Fire went to level 1 last year also, because of the potential. When we looked at it, we decided that we had two bookend fires burning on each end of the state at that time on the Front Range. Decided this could have been the third one, and we wanted to try to prevent that from happening. So we actually did go immediately to a Type 1 incident management team. And it's not just a bunch of people that show up. I mean, it is a well-coordinated, highest skilled people in the nation. There's only 12 of those teams nationally. And we have a number of people on Rocky Mountain Fire that belong on those Type 1 teams and do participate nationally. So for what it's worth, we do participate at that level of incident management, not only locally but nationally too. That kind of is our wildland program in a nutshell. Now, I know there's been some questions about what are the issues that may be addressing here in the town of Superior. And I think most of us are fairly aware that there's a lot of open space around the town of Superior, especially to the west, which is pretty much the worst direction it could be in because our prevailing winds are from the west. And I've been surprised that we haven't had large fires recently. We've had them up on Rocky Flats. We had them just south of town, if everybody remembers. I think it was last spring to the south of town. It was a fairly decent fire. But we haven't had anything directly west. But that day will come, and we are prepared to deal with it. I've talked with Matt about this a number of times. I'm sure we can have more conversations about it. What can the town do? And I know you're going through some tabletop exercises with you here shortly in the Sheriff's Department, where we're going to address some of that stuff. So, stand by. I think, the staff will have some information for you. But we do have a standard protocol and procedure on the fire department to deal with wildland fires. We have all the equipment here at this station to deal with those. And we do have the process and procedure well trained and in hand to deal with those also. I'll tell you that the fires that have occurred on Rocky Flats and had a good wind behind them, what we did was fight fire with fire. We got ahead of the fire because, well, there's two options. You either do direct attack, where you go to the fire and try to put it out. In a lot of cases, they're so big at that point, and so broad and so large that it's difficult to do it. Or you back off and go indirect, what we call indirect. So we would go along the Caslin and establish that as a line in the sand and start a burning operation. And we'd start an actual firing operation and put fire down along the western side of McCaslin and drag that the full length. And what that would be doing is robbing a lot of the fuel in advance of that main fire coming at you. So basically what we're doing is using McCaslin as a fire line, and we're making it larger by burning on it. So once you burn the fuels, it becomes unburnable again. So we're going to deepen that fire line. Excuse me. So that's our general approach and strategy for it.
And some of those, I'm sorry, some of those developments that are west of the Caslin, do you need special or dual trails or access in order to, create your process of how you use this indirect line?
Well, it'd be
Need
wonderful
that,
to
or
have trails directly opposite of the properties. It'd be lovely to have them and just give us a starting point. We can make them quickly. You don't have to have dirt to make them or a road. We make them with water too. So we do have the equipment that we don't need trails or roads to access those. We do have specialized wildland equipment that is very capable of traveling on, I'll say, almost every piece of the lands that are west of the town of Superior, comfortably.
And what kind of materials do you use? Is there like state-of-the-art materials, or is this just water lines, or?
No, yeah, we have, a foam, a suppression foam that we have in our one of our trucks. It's actually under pressure. It's called compressed air foam. And it basically adds about 25% volume to the water we have on that truck, so we can stretch it much further. And we'll just literally lay just like basically shaving cream we'll put down on the ground, and that's that start point. Like McCaslin would be that start point, that shaving cream would be the start point for us to start the burning off of it, and it'd keep it on that one side. So we do have all that equipment, and the firefighters are well-versed in using it, especially since we provide typical services outside the district with our wildland folks.
And do you ever have, I'm sorry, my last question, and I'll turn it over. Do you ever give tours to some of your processes and operations to residents in the area?
Sure.
Is that possible?
Demonstrate at any time. You know, our stations are open all the time. We get calls constantly for, people who want to come to the station and look at it. We have birthday parties there all the time. You'd be surprised how many folks just call us and say, hey, can my kids come and look at the fire station and look at the equipment? And people just generally do too. But absolutely, anytime, we would be happy to demonstrate it. In fact, if we ever wanted to do some kind of an activity like that, maybe at one of the town functions, we could demonstrate those tactics.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Trustee Sorelli, Trustee Gross.
I think it's still related to wildland, but when there's controlled burns, like an open space or Rocky Flats, I know who's done them, do you do them or do you just support them? Do they coordinate with you? How's that worked out?
It depends. Say Rocky Flats, and we've done controlled burns with them in the past. It's been a long time since they conducted them. We did have a call from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife within the last 30 days asking us to support some burns for them. We actually are going to be supporting burns with them next week up at the Arsenal. And they are looking at doing some controlled burns, prescribed fires, whatever we'd like to call them, management ignited fires here at Rocky Flats at some time in the near future. So if we're asked to support something, we usually do, especially if we provide general services to that area. As far as city and county open space, which is mostly what's made up your town here, we have supported prescribed fires with them in the past also. It's been a while, and I think most agencies, by the way, are a little gun-shy to do any prescribed fire at this point. There's a lot of discussion about it again, but little action is being issued right now, and I'm sure we can all understand that. We conduct prescribed fires on private lands in our district on a regular basis. So a lot of the ditch burns that some of the farmers and ranchers want done, we do that for them. We feel that we have all the equipment and personnel that we can do them safer and quicker for them than if they were just did it on their own. We also do various levels of prescribed fire in El Dorado Springs and up on Flagstaff Mountain.
Thanks.
Trustee Gross.
Yeah, first of all, great presentation. You gave us the right amount of detail. I think pretty much they answer all the questions that I had in mind. One comment that you made, that it's only a matter of time before we actually have a situation. Why hasn't that happened yet? Have we just been lucky, or what's the reason for that?
Well, I'd like to say it's because we put them all out, but I'm telling you, I've been totally surprised that there haven't been ignitions in the right spots.
Right.
There's been plenty of ignitions. I mean, you guys, we've all seen the smoke all the time.
Right.
I can't tell you why. There's no mitigation going on. It's just worked out, and it's great. It continues for a very long time, that it keeps working out. But back when it was, many years ago, and I'm talking 25 years ago, and we still had the high tension wires went through that open space, and it was before it was owned by the city and the county. We responded on a number of fires from lightning strikes that hit the towers and then started fires under them, and then took off through the grasses. And I've just been really surprised how well, nothing's happened over the years.
I mean, I know last summer was kind of a tough summer. There was Table Mesa, Sanahan Ridge, they were evacuated, for a while. So there was it struck closer to home than
Well, this fire, this picture, by the way, right there is my property boundary. So
really?
it was about 120 feet from my property.
That's pretty close to home.
So I know it strikes, pretty close to home, and I was kind of woke up too.
That's pretty close to home, yeah.
And I had only been home a day. I was at the Hyde Park Fire for 2 weeks managing the incident with the Type 1 team there, which I'm on, and returned home because I was getting a little nervous with how dry things were getting, and it was only a day later that we had the Flagstaff fire ignited. And this, by the way, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but, that's 200-foot flame lengths, and that was 1 hour into the incident after the lightning strike, so it doesn't take long when the conditions are right.
Yeah, I was in El Dorado Springs when the strike hit, and it blew up pretty fast.
Right.
So thank you for all you do. I mean, really, really appreciate it, and you exude a lot of confidence, which is nice. Thank you.
I appreciate
Trustee
it.
Skumas?
So I think my only question is the same one that I ask our sheriff folks, and that is, can you, maybe next time you come, can you provide some stats that compare your performance, number of calls, et cetera, versus FTEs to some of the other fire districts? Not just within this district,
I
but
think I
other
can
fire
get
districts
most of
as
that
well?
information, yes.
That would be really great.
I'd be happy to be here every month if you'd like. All you have to do is ask and tell me what you want to present, and I'll be here for you. So, honestly.
That would be, if the next time you present, you could provide those
will.
comparison stats, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Pennington?
On top of it, in our meeting before the regular meeting, we did discuss the mill levy, and if you would add comparison mill levies from neighboring communities.
Sure.
Given the level of service in those communities, which is a fair comparison.
Right.
However, you can do that. But a question I have gotten is, we have the Ridge, which is sort of out there in the wild land, and then you've got Sagamore sort of bordering on that west. The question has arisen how the perimeters are maintained. And Matt, you may know this, and Martin's here. Do we keep those mowed tight to keep the tall grasses away for a certain number of feet, or how is that maintained to prevent a near?
Well, that would be, of course, Matt, his staff's
So,
answer.
for the ridge, anything beyond the property line is Boulder County. And, yeah, and then Sagamore, we do, right, yeah. So, in some areas in Rock Creek, we'll mow down a 5 or 10 foot,
Right.
between the
And
fence line.
swamp,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's similar to what we do at Sagamore, but then with the county, that would be, I'm not sure if they mow anything down on their property there next to the ridge.
Is that something we can request?
We can, we can reach out to
I
them.
mean, would it increase safety to request that?
I think,
I mean, if you we call that modifying the fuel, because when they're standing up like that, they're up in the wind and they have more surface area, so fire travels through them quicker. You cut them, you lay them on the ground, they're now more in contact with moisture and stuff, they don't burn as well and as quick and produce as much BTU. So it's always better to have a cut field than it is not to. The standard procedure for the city of Boulder Fire Department is they have a threat coming from them. They're not allowed to cut any of the open space beforehand, but they muster all the town
Available resources?
and they come in and mow it immediately.
When the threat?
Hopefully, they have enough time to do it. On the Flagstaff fire, they did do that. They also have a trail-making mule, as they call it, a motorized piece of equipment that can actually create a trail that basically digs up the soils. And they did both of those in that case, and that is their standard protocol. So. But, Matt and I will be talking a lot about it at the tabletop exercises, so.
Great. Any other questions from the board or questions from the public? So I'll echo the comments that we've heard previously, that we thank you for your time and your work, and I think that we've had excellent service from the department, so thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Look forward to continuing working together.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt. I've heard from a resident that online, the webcast is not working.
Okay.
And I don't mean on Channel 8 or, on your home TV, I mean on
The web.
the web.
Yeah. We'll check into it. I can't do anything for my Steve.
Oh, I know, but I just thought I'd let you know. And this person is saying that it happens almost every time, that it's not up and operational on a regular basis.
Okay, so I'm going to backtrack here a little bit. So going to the consent agenda, and remaining on the consent agenda is approval of the Board of Trustees minutes for February 11th, 2013, acceptance of the meeting notes of the Open Space Advisory Committee meeting, and I think that's it. So entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda by Trustee Scamont, second by Trustee Sorelli. Discussion, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Once again, C has been pulled, be coming back at a different time.
No, C was pulled.
And then D, adoption of a resolution approving agreement with Liberty Waste Management for event waste disposal and related services. Trustee Williams.
So I pulled D and E because I kind of wanted to kind of discuss what our goal is on most of these waste management and recycling budget. And I want to know, what is our goal? What are we trying to achieve, and how best to achieve that goal? And I think that, to me, is kind of a 30,000-foot level discussion that we've talked about doing that discussion, and it's good policy to discuss, what our budget is and how we apply that towards our goal. When it comes to, waste disposal and recycling and waste management. So I kind of want to see where the rest of the board feels. This is something we discussed at the budget process, where we were going to go from here, how we were going to evaluate all the different programs. And so I'm kind of wondering if we've kind of either lost sight of what that plan was, or, how do we get there?
So, when we talked about the specific line item during the budget development process and approval, I mentioned to the board that before any funds were spent out of that, I would bring them to the board for your review and either approve or not. So that's how I've been proceeding. If you would rather, the board would rather delay these services and projects until we have a work session to go over that attachment that I included, I think in the last digest, we can do that, or we can continue to bring them forward. I can continue to bring them forward as they come up.
And I think your last document with the waste diversion and recycling budget line item expenditure and participation is a good start. But I'm not seeing an evaluation and research to back up that evaluation in, number one, what our goal is, number two, what services reach that goal, what is the best bang for the buck. So that 30,000-foot level discussion is what I'm interested in having. And I thought when we talked about the budget, that was where we were.
Trustee Hansen.
Yeah, on the, so are we talking, kind of lumping the two together in this conversation right now, D and E? So
Yes.
D, to me, we got to have, if we're going to have events, we've got to have the waste disposed of. So to me, I would allow town staff to have that discretion on who they're going to bring in. They've done their due diligence, they've put out the RFP, and they've decided on it. On E, I like that service. The large waste disposal service are hard to dispose of items. But I guess that's worthy of a discussion. Do we want to continue doing that, and is it of value to the community? But overall, I like both those services, and if we're going to have to discuss any of them, I don't know, I don't think that we should really need to discuss D, perhaps E, if we really have to discuss any of them.
And from my perspective, and I think the manager alluded to this at a meeting or so ago, he said these probably should be taken out of the recycling and conservation. These are annual events, and we should evaluate them on their own merit and just put it in a regular line item as opposed to being part of a RCAC.
Yeah, especially these larger ones that are $30,000+ contracts. That's what we were planning on doing as part of the 2014 budget development.
Trustee Pennington?
I agree with everything I've heard. I agree with Chris that certain parts of D have to go forth. I mean, event restrooms, portable toilets, that kind of thing at events has to go forward. I do think the fact that yard waste is lumped into D, and then, of course, E is the large items, et cetera, et cetera. I, too, would like to see us maybe go to the board retreat on March 11th and address the broad bones of what it is we're hoping to accomplish. And if continuing to provide yard waste, disposal capabilities, and large item disposal capabilities is in that, great, we'll continue them, but I do think it needs periodic review. For one, if on the large waste we spend 30 grand and we're picking up 30 items, that's $1,000 per item. I can call Waste Management myself, and for $50 a trip, have them come pick up my dilapidated chair or whatever. So we do have to make some of those determinations, whether or not the bang is worth the buck, if you will. So for board policy issues, I do think it needs to be revisited. I've been on the board going on to 3 years now, and we've never really discussed what it is we really hope to accomplish with these particular programs, and are there other programs out there that maybe get us further down the pike? So, agree with both of you. I think we can go forward tonight, as well as raise the policy issue in March.
Okay. Any other word comment? Trustee Scamatz?
I guess the main comment I have about these items, if they go forward, is that I think a really important part of either contract has to be tracking.
And I think that in years past, or perhaps it was during the budget cycle, that we actually have the data about how many items were picked up. So I don't know if you have that conveniently with you or not, but
It's tons and tons.
it seemed like it was a
It's tons of
huge
stuff.
amount of items that were being picked up.
Yeah, I have it, and it's in tons.
30 items, it's tons.
If you look at the spring cleanup, it's like 55 tons, but that doesn't really tell me how many households participated in the spring cleanup, and how much it costs per household or per item or per whatever, and how does that compare to, say, Louisville, Erie, Lafayette? Do they provide this service? How much do they pay for it? How many tons do they bring in? Something that gives me metrics, basically.
And I will say that they do provide those services, and it's one of those things where everybody thinks it's expensive. Nobody dares touch it because everybody loves the service. So Boulder, went, we'd love to cut this, but we would have a revolution. So yeah.
So for people familiar with this, 55 tons of spring cleanup junk, and those are items, right? Isn't spring cleanup all items?
All kinds of stuff. It's
Furniture.
yard waste, furniture,
Concrete.
It's whatever I put out at the curb?
anything you put at the curb. It's not just a big bulky item.
But
It's
not
stuff.
electronics, or can you put electronics out?
No.
It's just anything other than that.
But I would like to know how many households that is. If it's 30, it's still $1,000 per household, And at that point, maybe we should advise our households to call Waste Connections for $50 a trip. That kind of thing. So there are the economics to consider here. Also on that, when we contract with the hauler to pick up I assume like refrigerators with Freon in it, doesn't, yeah, whatever, do we assure
We don't pick
proper
up-
disposal?
I don't believe we pick up
Anything with Freon?
anything with Freon.
They
Okay.
used to.
Oh, they do, sorry.
Okay, so what requirements do we have of our vendors to make sure it's properly disposed of?
It's part of the bid.
Anybody is familiar with this, that would like
Yeah,
to speak
Mark.
to this?
Good evening, Marshall, town staff. To answer the question I think Matt referred to about Freon-containing appliances, waste haulers are required as part of their licensing to recycle it.
What does that mean, though, Martin? Does that mean remove the Freon from the appliance before the appliance is?
Exactly.
Tossed.
Generally, heavier duty, larger metal appliances that have a chemical in them that's extracted, and then the metal itself is scrapped and reused and sold.
Okay.
Okay. Additional board comments or public comments?
So, I was just going to say that some of these other events, like the hazardous, oh jeez, I've got to look at it, HMM, Hazardous Materials Management Facility, that generates somewhere about 100, well, last year, 189 for $8,000. That's about $42 a household. And I'm wondering, how does that compare to other communities? Do they pay the same amount? Do they get that kind of participation?
No,
Is this?
that is an IGA amongst, I think, all of the Boulder County communities, plus the city and county of Broomfield. And,
Kind of countywide assessment
yeah, each has
to pay
a
for a facility.
different cost associated
Not
with
really
the level of service.
Okay.
Is that the computer thing? Can you throw a
That's the
computer
big-
away?
That's the building behind the Boulder County Roof where you can bring your, oh my God, I found this hazardous stuff in my basement.
Computer included? Computers, is that which one of these is the electronic?
That's the
electronics goes to
HHW
Trent,
event.
So I don't think it goes to the hazardous materials. It goes to the events. We have a hazardous
Right.
waste event. That's the electronics.
Electronics, televisions, you pay for those. When you take them, you have to pay for them to take them.
Even at our own event?
Cost share.
But anyway, you see what we're trying to get across is there is board policy discussion.
Yeah, and just would pipe in on the policy discussion regarding E. Isn't that the one that's the, oh no, the part of D that deals with the yard waste? I love that service, and I think it's keeping that stuff out of the landfill, which is what we all ought to be supporting, so I'd like to proceed on that anyway. I could talk about E if we want, but that's my personal view on yard waste.
Well, if there isn't any other discussion, then perhaps we should move on with item D at least.
Well, when I was looking at item D, I was having difficulty figuring out how that all added up based on the document that you gave us earlier. I can't seem to add that up and to the 22,000. I don't have a problem with E in the fact that 7E, it's pretty self-explanatory in the spring cleanup that the bid is $31,980, and that is exactly what we have in the budget. But D, I'm failing to see how it all adds up.
Those are based on the price per item, and then we are using 2012 numbers to help us get to.
Like the snowplow contract, it's almost like units.
Right,
You'll
yeah.
assume
We
it's
won't
X number of
know
hours or X
until,
number of tons.
So is there a
The
cap
event
on
happens
this?
and we pick up, huh?
So is there a cap? Or
Not
no?
to exceed 31,980.
No, on D.
Yes,
Not to exceed what?
31,980.
But that's E.
Oh, that's E, sorry.
I'm like,
Sorry. I don't mean to confuse you.
like, you are now really confusing me.
I'm sorry.
Not to exceed 26,187, I think is the number.
Yes. It's in the agreement for services 3.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions or?
So, I mean, as long as I've been on the board, I just have never seen what our goals are on this and how we're reaching those goals. And,
Lisa gave a presentation, maybe Lisa Nybarger, maybe 9 months ago, saying that there was an X% goal. These were the list of programs that have been put in over the last X years and something years. Maybe you missed that meeting. It's possible.
and so I guess I'd like to see that information then. But I'm wondering, I mean, how we're reaching those goals and how each program, how it's benchmarked and how we translate that into our goal. I mean, I'm just not, I don't see that. I
Well, do
mean,
we all agree to raise this issue at the retreat? I think that's everybody agreed, that's the way to proceed? On the policy end of things? Are you satisfied with that,
Yeah.
Deborah? Okay.
Okay.
So we'll do that March 11th? Or are we doing that at a work session?
No, it sounds like March 11th.
I'm good with proceeding on D, though.
Yeah.
Is, how do people feel?
So I'll entertain a motion. All right, anybody?
Trustee Pennington.
Trustee Pennington, sorry.
I move we approve Resolution Number R16, Series 2013, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving an agreement with Liberty Waste Management for event waste disposal and related services.
Motion by Trustee Pennington, second by Trustee Skumatz. Further discussion?
Yes. I just want to reiterate the fact that the tracking of tons and
Households.
at a minimum should, yeah. So,
Okay. Motion and a second, Phyllis?
Sterling,
Yes.
Gregores,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Buckle,
Yes.
Pennington,
Yes.
Schoonow,
yes.
Williams.
No.
Okay. That brings us to item number E. Further discussion?
I can actually understand this one being delayed until the March 11th meeting, until we get some more numbers on that and reiterate as a group that that's part of the policy we want to pursue.
It's, however people want to proceed, I think this is a well-received event that people really like, and it's providing a service to the residents of the town of Superior for doing something that they'd have a hard time otherwise doing. I mean, they could pay with a hauler, but so I'm comfortable moving forward, but if that's the board
And I'm
pleasure.
comfortable moving forward as well.
My shredded bag is overflowing.
But that's not spring cleanup. That's shredded.
Yeah.
It's part of, I think shredded bag is part of it.
And I'm not against these services. I just would like to have that 30,000-foot level discussion and then let town staff do its job and research and come back with what they think is the best programs to reach our goals. So that's where I'm at.
So can I ask a question, though,
Trustee
about
Hanson.
the March 11th meeting. We're going to meet at 5. We're going to work through the work session, and then have our board meeting at 7. Are we going to look at every single program on the RCAC?
That's not our job. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the 30,000-foot level where we decide and discuss policy and our goals and have town staff go off and research how to reach those goals and to show us, what programs do reach those goals.
It just seems like we could spend that whole 2 hours, it's not very long, doing just that.
Yeah, but our meeting is not about that for 2 hours.
No.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want anyone to expect that we're going to go in and get that 30,000-foot,
It won't occur that day. No,
No.
you're right. It won't.
okay.
we got a lot of other things that we need to discuss.
Yeah, things like like D, I think that we leave that up to the discretion of town. I'm fine with that moving forward, but I do agree that we should discuss in more detail the other programs and whether the value is really there. So,
Trustee Pennington?
Just adding to that, on the spring cleanup, love the idea. No, I've never participated, but I plan to participate on May 7th, right? Isn't that it? Because I got a lot of junk I'm going to throw in that. But I'd like to know on that at a minimum number of households. Because if in fact we could even pay Waste Management if we have 100 households, $50 a crack for a total of $5,000 as opposed to possibly a whole heck of a lot more, unless Waste Management's more than that now. But I'd like to know number of households at a minimum on that we serviced last year before I vote on it. I like it intuitively, but I don't have enough
that's
data.
E you're talking about.
And do you have that information, Matt?
Not tonight.
No.
So how does the board...
Jim, do you have
Oh,
I see him.
I see public comment, okay.
Jim Payne, Superior resident. I applaud what you're trying to do, but just as a resident, a lot of people plan on this, and I don't think you want to tell them now that it's not going to
Well,
happen.
maybe we do it for,
Okay.
maybe we analyze it for next year,
Right.
Well, that's different. Yeah, that's what I would like
applaud
to
that,
do.
but I...
But we need to
my
get the
observation would be
process going
Yeah.
instead of just piecemealing
People need to know.
this.
People plan, they put stuff aside.
I have, I
It's all
know.
worked out in a schedule.
We were just
It was
asking
worked out
about
in a
this last
schedule.
meeting, when it's going to happen again, so
So my suggestion is we move forward on this and vote on this today, but we need to have this discussion for future years, absolutely.
That's fine.
And I don't want to put it off. I want to actually really have, that discussion. I think it will be fascinating to see what the results are and where we go forward with
Well, we
that,
could
and what the
certainly
goals
use
are.
this year's event to collect that data, and be much more precise about our data
I got to
collection.
believe that Waste Management, I'm sorry.
It has been collected. They
Yeah,
just don't
they-
seem to have it here tonight.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
definitely
No, that
collected
exists.
year
They
after
wouldn't,
year.
they definitely collect that.
It seems like, just anecdotally, I drive around the neighborhood on those days, even if I'm not doing something, and there is a whole bunch of stuff out.
Oh,
So
yeah, it's big ticket
If it's
items.
50, what is it, 55 tons?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, if it's 55 tons, it's probably it's closer to 75 tons, because there's so many people that come from outside the community that go by and pick stuff up. Seriously.
recycle, yeah.
Yeah.
So, to proceed, Trustee Sorelli?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-17, Series 2013, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving an agreement with Superior Maintenance for spring cleanup bulk item event waste disposal services.
Motion by Trustee Sorelli, second by Trustee Skumatz for the discussion.
Yes.
Trustee Skumatz?
Again, I'd like to comment that we need to have measurement and recording as an important part of the contract.
Trustee Pennington?
And a commitment to establishing a long-term policy perspective on this.
Ditto on that.
All right, with that, Phyllis?
Gregori?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Buckle?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Skumatz? Yes. Williams?
No.
Sorelli?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. That brings us, if I'm following my schedule correctly, to item number 9, executive session to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, develop a strategy for negotiations, and/or instruct negotiators pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, parent 4, parent E, to consider purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real property pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, parent A, and to hold a conference with the town's attorney to receive legal advice on specific legal questions pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, parent 4, parent B, regarding the US 36 interchange and town center. With that, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session by trustee Gregorus, second by trustee Williams. Discussion. All in favor? We're in executive session. Thank you.